All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. Welcome to the 9th EasyBuild user meeting. And this Zoom thing is going to annoy us pretty well. All right. So welcome. Thank you all for being here. I very quickly pulled down the attendance stats of the previous meetings. And is this going to keep happening? Okay, we'll see. So before the COVID pandemic, we were doing pretty well. Actually, the biggest EasyBuild user meeting we ever had was in Barcelona in 2020, shortly before the pandemic. That was a bit over 50 people, so that was really good in terms of attendance. Now, Barcelona is a little bit easier to reach than EUM' is. It's also a bit cheaper than London is, so that's probably a factor for the previous meeting and the current meeting. But that overall, I think we have a pretty good group here, 30 people. And over 50 people attending remotely, which is pretty much the same as we had last year. So I'm definitely not complaining here. I'm pretty happy with this. For next year, we're already trying to figure out where we're going. It's going to be the 10th EasyBuild user meeting. So maybe we want to make that a little bit more special than usual. It's not fully fixed or confirmed yet, but the plan is that we'll probably head back to Jülich. So where we were in 2017 as well. Next year at the Jülich Supercomputing Center, the big first exascale European supercomputer Jupiter should be up and running. And it's already been confirmed that EasyBuild will be used on that as well to manage the software stack. So that makes it, to me, interesting to head back to Jülich and make that a bit of a special user meeting. We'll see if it actually works out. We'll try and confirm that as soon as we can. Then just for remote attendance and just also so people are aware here. So we have lots of remote attendees via Zoom who are watching us live, who will also be able to raise questions at the end of each talk. We won't do that in the middle of talks. We may do that here in the room in the middle of talks, but not through Zoom. That's going to be a bit too messy. But definitely at the end of each talk, we'll try and keep a close attention to Zoom as well. So if you do have any questions, the people in Zoom, do raise your hand towards the end of the talk. I will try to make sure you can ask your question live if you want to. If you prefer not asking it live or raising your voice, that's fine. You can just drop questions in Slack as well, and we'll try to monitor that as well. So there's a dedicated channel, EUM channel in Slack, where you can just freely discuss things, or if you have any questions for the speakers, we will try and pick up on those as well. So we're trying to make this a hybrid thing, which has worked quite well in the past, so I'm hoping we can keep that up. We're not only doing remote attendance via Zoom, we're also live streaming this on YouTube. So be aware of that if you're raising any questions or making any controversial statements. Be aware that you're basically telling that to the world. All the talks will stay there in the live format on YouTube as well. So there's a playlist that you can access. You should have gotten the link for that. The talks will stay there, but afterwards, we'll probably upload a cleaner version of all the recordings as well. That doesn't have the Zoom logo embedded and things like this, and where we may do some cutting at start and end to make it clean. But the links we have will keep working. The reason we're doing this, it's very important. I mean, not everybody can travel here. Not everybody has time or has the means to travel here. And up until now, we actually have the talks of all the previous user meetings. So all 8 past ones, all the talks are there available on the YouTube channel. And we're trying to keep that up, of course. And again, here as well, for the people following through the YouTube live stream, join the EasyBuild Slack, join the channel there, and you can raise questions there as well, even if you're not in Zoom. Then the agenda for the coming days. So today we're just getting started. We had an informal meet and greet kind of session. I saw people having some discussions and chats already. That's very good. That was the intention. After this, I'll start with the traditional EasyBuild State of the Union talk, which is planned for 1 hour and 15 minutes. I may not fill that, so there I'll definitely leave the gap for at least questions from the room and probably some Q&A and discussion afterwards as well, which is probably going to continue into lunch break as well for the people here. Yes?
It's good if we do not draw into the lunch break the first day, since it takes a while to get there.
You don't want to overrun into the lunch break on the first day because it takes some time to get there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but over lunch people can discuss, right? Yeah. All right. Yeah, so we'll try our best to stick to timing. in the past, that hasn't always worked because usually interesting discussions start and we don't want to cut those off too quickly. But yeah, we'll try to find a middle ground there, especially since we have a lot of remote attendees as well. Then after lunch, we'll have a keynote talk. So Miguel, who's here in the back, from Chalmers University, will be talking about RISC-V in the EU pilot project. So I invited Miguel here. I didn't know him before this because we see RISC-V as coming relatively soon in the European HPC community, and it's very important to be aware of that. So that's why I think it makes sense to have a longer talk on that topic to make sure the EasyBuild community is aware of this. And then after a coffee break this afternoon, Simon will talk about EasyBuild 5, the now infamous EasyBuild 5, maybe already. We've been working on it for over a year now. We're getting quite close, but Simon will give us a status update on that and the road ahead for that big release. And then we'll wrap up the day with a group dinner. So we have 3 group dinners all 3 days, and all 3 of them are sponsored. So the first one will be sponsored by HPC Now. So Maria, Jose, and Pau from HPC Now are here attending as well. So they will be sponsoring that group dinner. So thank you very much for HPC Now. They have been a member of the community for quite a long time. For the people who don't know HPC Now, and you can ask Maria, Jose, and Pau for questions on that. They're a consultancy company based out of Spain mostly, with the CTO actually living in New Zealand. So they're to some extent a remote first company as well. They've been growing very fast, I think, in the last couple of years. So lots of new people coming in. And they have been very active in promoting EasyBuild and Easy, especially in the last couple of years as well. So we're very thankful, of course, that they're willing to sponsor the dinner. That's very welcome. All right. Then tomorrow we'll start a little bit earlier. So we'll actually start at 9 in the morning. Oh, oops, can't click this away. Okay. So we'll start at 9 in the morning. So make sure you try and make it here on time. There may be some snow, but Åke tells me it's not going to be very bad, but he's Swedish. So for most other people in the room here, we may have a different idea of what's difficult in terms of snow. So just try and factor that in. We'll start with a side talk by Åke himself, explaining how they are using EasyBuild and maybe beyond that as well, what they have here at the university. Then York is going to talk about EasyBob, a tool he has on top of EasyBuild, I could say, to even do some more automation. So he has some interesting thoughts there and some tools to share as well. If all goes right, Simon will have a side talk about the use of EasyBuild at the University of Birmingham. So that's a bit of an open question, but yeah, I'm sure he can cook up something that makes sense. Then we'll have maybe a bit of a longer talk. So if yours is being cut short, Simon, that's actually fine, because Alexander, or the infamous Flamefire, as people know him from GitHub and Slack, is here as well. He has been doing a lot of effort on PyTorch and primarily the PyTorch test suite. And we're very happy. You'll have to click that away, Lars. It's here. Okay. So we're very happy to have him here. Sorry? The other. Okay. Yeah. So Zoom is popping up here in the room, at least. Yeah, so we're very happy to have Alexander here and give us a pretty detailed talk, I think, in the end, on all the efforts he has been doing on PyTorch. That's going to be interesting to see if he can keep that to half an hour. But if not, the coffee break is probably a bit more flexible to leak into. Yeah, so that should be very interesting. I'm sure many people will be interested to hear what's been going on there. Then after the coffee break, if all goes well, we'll have Veselios giving us an update on Reframe. So that's going to be a remote talk. So we always try to have a couple of remote talks as well, things that are very interesting and that we want to share with the community, but people who cannot make it here. We try to limit that, of course. We don't want to make it people sitting in the room watching remote talks. That's not what we're going for. But this is an interesting one that we've had on the program for a long time as well. So Vasilios will be sharing the updates on that, and I'm hoping he sticks to time. He's not very good at that. We'll see. If you're in the Zoom, Vasilios, I'm sorry. Then next up is another Alexander. Raise your hand. Yeah. So he's from Jülich Supercomputing Center. He will be talking. I mean, how else can you you have to have a talk on LLMs, right? These days, if you don't, you're not really relevant. So he's going to be talking about the BlaBlaDoor service. Is it the service? Yeah, for large language models. So that should be very interesting. And then a bit of a maybe less technical talk by Adam on how he became an EasyBuild maintainer and maybe try to motivate people to at least consider becoming an EasyBuild maintainer as well, because we do need all the help we can get, of course, with processing contributions. After lunch, we continue with another very short remote talk by Michael. A splash of color. I won't spoil the fun there a bit. So he has been working on a couple of interesting things. Wanted to do a lightning talk on that, but unfortunately he couldn't make it here. Then we'll have a couple of side talks, EasyBuild side talks. That's a traditional thing as well we have in the program. University of Brussels. So Cynthia is going to talk from the University of Brussels. Douglas from UpMax. Then I already skipped Alexander. He's going to give another shorter side talk on how EasyBuild is used in Dresden in Germany. And then Luca from CSCS is here as well. Again, I should say, how many times have you been talking, Luca, at the user meeting? 4, 5 times? Yeah, something like that. So giving us an update on, I want to say EasyBuild at CSCS, but it's definitely not going to be only EasyBuild, right? Yeah. As well. Okay, good. Yeah, an update on that is going to be interesting too. Then after the coffee break, and I have to disappoint people here, Todd is not here. I'm not sure if this meeting is very interesting to him. But we've always had him give a spec update as well. So it's good to be aware of the, let's say, competition. I'm not really sure if spec is competition, but to peek over the fence and see what they're doing there, what they're working on, where they're heading towards. That's always interesting to have. So Todd has a 45-minute slot, and if I'm right, he'll be getting up at something like 6 a.m. to give that talk because he's at a conference in the US somewhere. But he was very willing to do that. And then if we can manage to keep Todd on time, we'll have some time for a tour of the data center here at
HPC-UGent, not the university.
The HPC-UGent data center. Okay, sorry. That's wrong in the program then. Yeah. All right, and we'll wrap up the day again with a group dinner, again sponsored. So sponsored by the Inuits, another consultancy company that especially we in Ghent have been working with quite a bit. They've been helping us trying to keep on top of the software installation requests we get. So they're essentially producing easy config files for us and making the effort of figuring out those installation procedures and adding that support into EasyBuild. We typically give them the harder stuff. So the stuff that we say, oh boy, this is going to take a while. We shove that to the consultants because that's what they're being paid for. And they're actually quite good at doing that. Sometimes there's a bit of a ramp-up period because they're sometimes new to EasyBuild or even to software installations in general, but they're very quick at picking it up and making sure that we get a lot of help. We've had a couple of different people there. We're now working with 2, and there were 3 or 4 different ones already. So there's already some expertise, at least, inside of Inuits. And if that's something you need help with, so if you're having trouble with keeping up with installation requests and in some sense want to contribute back to the EasyBuild community as well, this is one way to do it. So you could pay someone to work on EasyBuild for you. All right, and then on Thursday, another good mix of talks, a bit more focus on the Easy project. So how many people here are familiar with the Easy project already? How many people have actually used it in practice? Yes, yeah, okay. That's sort of what we were expecting. That's good because that means there's going to be lots of interesting stuff being talked on Thursday. We'll start with a high-level introduction by my colleague Lara from Ghent University. And then Pedro is going to talk a bit more in depth. So Pedro's in the back there on how you can contribute to Easy. So there's a strong connection between EasyBuild and Easy. And Pedro will essentially be making that bridge to some sense. Then a bit of a sidestep, Sam is going to talk about installing data sets with EasyBuild, which is a bit of out-of-the-box thinking, I would say. So that's a slightly different use case there. So the ideas he has there, at least, to do that through EasyBuild. And then if all goes well, we'll try and do some hands-on with Easy. So we'll actually give you access to a virtual machine where you can play around a bit. It's probably going to be an AWS. where we can explain you how to install Easy from scratch. So what do you have to install, what you have to configure to get access to the Easy project, what the user experience is like, and maybe depending on your expertise or your experience so far, maybe you can even take some first steps into contributing something into the Easy project already. And Pedro, Lara, me, maybe Oka as well will be running around and trying to help people that need any help there.
Lunch missing here.
Yeah, I had to cut out lunch or it couldn't fit on the slide. But we will have lunch on Thursday as well. So there's a lunch break then, of course. Then after lunch, we'll have another remote talk by Andrew Nesbitt, who may be in the Zoom already as well. So he's also somebody I reached out to sort of out of the blue, because I noticed he's now working on the ecosystems project, which is, to really summarize it very briefly, a common API across package registries like CRAN or PyPy, where you can query lots of things and figure out versions, dependencies, whether things have funding or not. So all of that. So that's going to be an interesting remote talk as well on that type of service he's working on and what you can do with it. Then in the afternoon, I will give a short talk about another easy topic, but going beyond the basics a bit, like how did we add GPU support, a little bit about the test suite we're building in the Easy project with Reframe, and what's special about it, how you can use Easy in GitHub Actions, and so on. I'll be fully honest here, I still have to work on these slides. They're not finished, but there's a lot of things to talk about there. And I'll probably do some hands-on as well to just show live how this all works. And then we'll wrap up the technical part of the program with another remote talk by Bart Alderman in Canada to talk about their experience with CERN VMFS. So that's one of the enabling things in the Easy project. They have almost a decade of experience with this, so he'll be talking about their extensive experience with that, why it makes sense to do it, and what you need to pay attention to if you want to adopt this kind of solution as well. And this is also very relevant for Easy, because you're essentially using the same mechanism there as well. Towards the end, because also I think some people will be leaving a little bit early, we just have an open slot, open discussion, more hands-on. If there's somebody here who wants to give a short talk or some kind of demo, hands-on demo, or just raise a difficult question and try to do some discussion around that, that's very welcome. So think about that. And if you have something concrete there, let me know, then we can fill that slot. But this is going to be a bit more of a less organized, more chaotic kind of closing session. And then for the people who are sticking around, on Thursday, there's another group dinner, again sponsored by HPC-UGent and EUM'24 University. So basically the hosts of the meeting here. So we're also very thankful that they are sponsoring this group dinner. I think it's the first time at the EasyBuild user meeting that we have all 3 group dinners sponsored. So I'm not sure if that's a sign of something, but it's definitely good.
A sign of good luck.
Maybe. Well, good. There's more to it than luck, but okay. All right. Yeah, that's it in terms of welcome. I'm not sure if there's any questions now already. I would expect not. So I guess we can just continue to the next talk, to the State of the Union talk. We'll wrap up the recording streaming part first before we kickstart the other one.